Welcome back, Deckheads, to Cast a Commotion, the podcast where we're going to be talking about Flesh and Blood. It has been a gap between the last episode and this one. The reason for that being Flesh and Blood, United States Nationals, and the calling in Las Vegas had just occurred, and I went to go participate since I had qualified for the Nationals event. A lot happened there. Lots of losses, lots of wins, feelings, a roller coaster, and Breyer became a living legend. Let's go ahead and talk about this and more, this time on Cast a Commotion. All right, we're just getting back. I'm just settling into the house for the first day back from Nationals, and it has been a journey. I chose to drive because I like driving and I like that drive. You see a lot of interesting geological formations. The mountains are beautiful. And of course, a lot of people like to focus on the desert. That incredibly long, straight road that goes straight through Nevada. While that may not be the most exhilarating part of it, seeing all of the interesting weather that forms going in and out of those valleys is pretty wild. We got to see peaks of thunderstorms across that night sky while we were tearing through curving, winding canyons. It was a lot of fun. This is about my Nationals experience, and kind of going to be a recap near the end of Nationals, right? And kind of how to prepare for bigger events as well, right? You still want to learn how to do that, and things just to keep in mind before you go to these bigger events that are going to be happening across the world over the next couple months. So the first thing I wanted to touch on is before you leave, right? It's not going to occur to a lot of people, but you really do need to do some prep work before you leave. Nothing too crazy. It's not a giant checklist or anything, but you just have to make sure to have I put out a reminder on my Discord for all the people going. Submit your goddamn deck list. Just get it done now. Don't panic and forget to print a piece of paper when you're at the convention center or at the hotel or wherever you're going to be. Just submit it now. Print one right now as well. Bring it with you. Put it in whatever you're carrying your deck in or whatever. Just make sure you have your deck list with you, right? If you're driving like I am, bring a lot of water, but pace yourself, right? It's awful to have to stop every hour, but at the same time, you need to keep your brain right for the days coming up to the next event, right? Don't try to eat a bunch of awful food. We brought a bunch of berries, nuts, trail mixes, and things like that with us. It's just more important than ever to keep your diet right leading up to the event so nothing happens, nothing dumb happens with your stomach, nothing dumb happens on the trip, etc. Again, if you're driving a long distance from where I'm at, Vegas Google Maps is a liar. It's not 16 hours. It's like 18 after stops and all that. Remember, before you leave, just do those little bits of prep work, and the drive, the flight, whatever you do will be so much more stress-free because you're not going to be thinking, oh, did I forget to do something? No, because you know you did it before you even started the departure, right? When you're traveling to these large events, make sure to have fun on the journey itself. Obviously, flying can cut a lot of the journey out, but leading up to the event, clear your head. We personally stop off in a town in between us and Vegas and hang out with some friends, watch some movies. We don't even talk about Flesh and Blood. It's just a quick hangout. I know I don't have to worry about anything because I did that previous prep work, right? I submitted my deck lists. I've already tested. I've already done all the stuff I've been talking about in this playlist for the previous few months. So now I'm just having a good time on a road trip, right? Get to see some old friends, some dogs, some new sights, try some new food, some old food I've had previously. Korean barbecue is always great, but there's not a lot of it where I'm at. So I make sure to get it whenever I can and I'm out of town. Great little place called Cup Bop. It's one of the jankest places I've ever been, I swear. They pull food out of little coolers behind the counter. but they've never made me sick, and I like the way it tastes, so I don't know what to tell you. Make sure to keep yourself in high spirits going to the event. Don't sit there and stress the whole time. Literally do everything but. We went to go see rivers, some mountains, some streams. We went to go for just little visits here and there in between, and then just drive around the city you're in, you know? Have yourself a ball beforehand. After that stop that I take, it is a 10. I'd say a 10-hour drive. Yeah. And man, the desert is exhilarating. So you're going to have to start looking to find ways to entertain yourself and your partner, whoever you're with, right? My partner introduced the dumbest game on the planet to me called the alphabet game. You just call out a letter or something every time you see it, and you're not allowed to use the same thing. Not really fun when you're the driver and there's a bunch of dumbasses around you going 90 miles an hour, right? It's not a very fair game to the driver. But you have to do stuff like that, right? Always keep your mind in high spirits. The travel is fun for about a few hours. And then 4 hours in, you find yourself stretching in your seat and all that. Feel free to pull over and just look at the sights around you. We saw some really cool mountain formations that had a small little funnel cloud over it. I'm not saying it's like, whoa, tornado. No, but it was very cool to just take in somewhere you're not from. No matter where you're at, just go ahead and do that for yourself. It'll keep you refreshed. It's a part of the vacation. Turn this into a vacation. We get so few of those. Not just me, but everybody. I really do love that drive. We always, the couple times we've been now, end up going through Humboldt National Forest, and we see these tiny little trees, and that's when we know we're coming up to the most winding roads on the planet that have these insane structures. They're slanted pillars that just hide the road from you after every turn. Perfect geometric shapes, just blowing out of the ground, and atop of them are just weird layered peaks and buttes all over. And all the time, I don't know what it is about Vegas in this time of year, but when we're peeling through that really, really winding canyon with all these great sights, it's just dumping rain and thunder and lightning all over the place. So slam on some sweet Kavinsky or something and get at it. Pulling into Las Vegas is always mixed emotions. It's never what you think. It's the flattest city I've ever seen in my life. And the drivers are insane. I don't think I saw a single turn signal the entire time I was there. We had a car that was telling us that the speed limit was 70. I was going 80, but someone else, not even just one person, I was getting passed left and right. That place is crazy. You can definitely tell why they have a bunch of billboards. And I mean a bunch. There's literally, on the freeway, a billboard per 300 or 400 feet that's about accidents. And it's like, God damn it, just chill out. It's not that big of a deal. This one's kind of specific to Vegas. Take in the sights of the city itself, right? That's the beauty of driving is, flying is very fast and convenient, but if you can drive somewhere, do so. You have so much more freedom to just drive around the city without having to Uber everywhere. You're not looking for destinations. You're exploring. You find all kinds of crazy stuff left and right. I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of Vegas food. I just find it to be heavily overpriced. And I can always get something. It always feels like I could get something better somewhere else. But try it out. Try it out for yourself. We always try to shoot for places that are not available in the north. This time it was Raising Cane's, and my God, that is the most mid. I hope this makes you mad. That is the most mid fast food place I've ever been. I thought I hated In-N-Out. Please God, hate me. I thought I hated In-N-Out. Jesus. Well, actually, no. I'll put Raising Cane's above it only because you can't fuck up a chicken strip too bad. But the styrofoam fries at In-N-Out, awful. But that's just all kind of like talking about the journey there, keeping yourself in high spirits, making sure you're refreshed, do all the prep work beforehand, and really just show up ready to play. Don't show up stressed, okay? So when you finally arrive at your destination, the city of your large event, go ahead and orient yourself with your location. For the first hour we checked into our hotel, we were trying to find where the Flesh and Blood event was going to be. I thought it was going to be in the convention center again, and it wasn't super clear because the hotel we were at is on the same block as the convention center for Las Vegas. Don't get too caught up with the sites night of. You'll have all weekend, assumptively, if you're there all weekend, to check everything out. Definitely orient yourself with the location, pick up some kind of little pamphlet or something that shows you where you're at. It turns out that the Flesh and Blood event was in the same building, just on the opposite side of the building. We finally found where that was, and then I could rest even easier, right? Because now I'm not going to be panicking. Oh my God, where is it now? I already know. I've already layered the path in my head. I already know where I'm going. And then it's just like every other event, get some sleep. Make sure you wake up on time. Make sure you show up early. The benefit of showing up early on day one of Nationals for me was waking up at Friday at 7 a.m., open those blinds, take in a beautiful dawn, wake up right, get some water, try not to get fast food. Try your hardest not to get fast food. We ended up just eating some more of the berries and nuts that we had, and then we made the poor choices later in the day. But the reason that I wanted to wake up was because I've never been able to really enjoy these big events before. Usually, back when I played other card games, we'd be arriving hours before the event, no sleep, devastated, absolutely stomachs wrecked, and just not in any condition to be playing. But when you do all of these previous steps I've talked about and really just enjoy your time and enjoy yourself on your way there, then you're refreshed. In my scenario, open up some curtains. I'm sure it was a golf course, but palm trees and just take in the sun, right? I never get to see that damn thing. I don't know if I've said it on this podcast before, but I'm a graveyard shifter, so looking at the sunrise usually means it's time to go to bed. But waking up with that, going down there, I'm really glad I did, because I saw they were giving away these sweet poker chip resource tokens from Metal Fab Tokens. This is not, obviously I'm too small of a podcast to be sponsored by anything, but it's just, they were sweet. They sold out about 5 minutes after I got mine. Would not have gotten it if I didn't show up early. Sometimes you just got to go check out the vendors and see what limited supplies they have, what kind of cool items they have. I also picked up a shirt with Phi on it. I didn't see anything else I really liked, but there's all kinds of cool artistic things all over the place, and those people paid to be there. You paid to be there. Do some business. They also have singles and packs if you skipped all of the previous steps about trying to relax before you get there and you need to get cards for your deck last second. Speaking of last second, oh God, the partner, her Starstrucks showed up 20 minutes before we departed our location, our house, right? So she would have been one of those people just like, man, I really hope they have those Starstrucks there. Try not to do that. After you're done exploring the place, make sure you have ample time to understand the format. I understood that I was going into a professional level event, so I needed to try to refresh myself on the steps and communication. Just like in the previous episodes where I've discussed being open and clear with your communication on each step with your opponent, it does come in handy. A few times, my opponent tried to hurry through some phases, and it would have been detrimental to them, but I stopped them and was a good sport and helped them through it. It ended up being beneficial to them, and we'll talk more about that in a bit, because we're getting to the event, United States Nationals, Las Vegas. I showed up with Phi, the Rising Rebellion, and I showed up with my specific variant of Phi. I accidentally sent an outdated playlist to a friend to evaluate, but what I had brought was Kodachi Phi. I was aiming to exploit Rupture as much as possible, because I knew that Lexi was going to show up in force, and Lexi does not like to block. So I wanted to get as many Rupture effects as possible. I also just went for Unbridled Aggression. Any kind of punishment on hit effect that I could throw in the deck, I tried to get. Of course, being Kodachi Phi, I pack a few more blues. And then I went light on the equipment. I didn't even take Tide Flippers. Didn't take Emberblade. Didn't take any kind of backup measures. Just went straight for matchup dependent sideboard, right? So we'll go over the deck that I brought to Nationals here in a bit. I don't know if you're going to want to play it, but at the same time, the story is going to unfold. So we're talking about Phi, the Rising Rebellion. I brought 2 Kodachi, and for equipment, it was a Flame Scale Furnace and a Tunic. The only thing that determined whether or not I would put the Tunic in is if I thought that I would be going a little bit longer in the game, like against Assassins, or the Fatigue Briar, or anything like that. It was just, if I knew the game was going to be running a little bit longer, I'd put in Tunic. I only had to use it once, but it did win me the game. So props to that card. I brought Mask of Momentum. Being Kodachi Phi and being Rupture Phi, I just tried to synergize the 4-chain as much as possible. So Mask of Momentum helped put a lot of pressure on, and the amount of despair that goes across someone's face when they realize how I was playing, It's great. It's great. Snapdragon Scalers and the Tiger Stripe Shuko. Obvious choices are obvious. We can go ahead and start with the red cards. Obviously, we'll just go alphabetically because I have the list here. 3 Blaze Headlong, 3 Brand with Cinder Claw, and I'll go over sideboard separately. 3 Flame Call Awakening, 2 Inflame, 3 Lava Burst, 3 Mounting Anger, 3 Phoenix Flames, 2 Phoenix Forms, a single Razor Reflex, Rise from the Ashes, red 3, 2 Rise Up, Rising Resentment, 3 of Ronin Renegade, 3 Snatches, 3 Soaring Strikes, and 3 Soulbead Strikes. Okay, so we'll just break it down by the red section, right? The surprise picks here are obviously going to be like Razor Reflex, Rise Up, In Flames, Soaring Strike, right? Those are the weird ones. So the reasoning behind those cards, right? I have the single Razor Reflex either to try to finish a game or to push Snatches through, right? It can also be used on things like Blaze Headlong if you need to give it go again. But or Phoenix Form, which actually did happen at Nats. Phoenix Form pushed through for the draw. Just like last time, it's just one of my favorite things to do is to push through a really gross on hit with a single Razor Reflex. And then from then on, they're second guessing Razor Reflexes and blocking incorrectly. And you need to take advantage of that. The other one is Rise Up. I don't have that many finishers in this deck. Just the Lava Burst and the Phoenix Forms and the Snatches. So a couple Rise Ups help quite a bit just to push a lot of damage. If you have an otherwise lackluster turn, they were just trying to block against the mask triggers, and they kind of block up incorrectly, just blocking the second chain, and you get a few Phoenix Flames on there. I mean, this is going to push through for 7 Dominate. It's Razor Reflexible. It's Snapdragon capable. It gets affected by Soaring Strike very easily. Same with Mounting Anger. It's not that bad. It's also a 3 block. It's not too bad. Could be better. I do take it out in slower matchups because they're going to have better defense reactions at that point in time, and the Dominate doesn't matter as much. Other than that, yeah, Soaring Strike is just to give those other cards Lava Burst, Snatch, Rise Up, all those go again. That's kind of it. Sometimes I give Phoenix Form go again if I just need to extend the chain. It also is for a few sideboard cards as well, like E-Strike and all that. The only yellow cards in the deck are Art of War. Because I'm not running Mask of the Pouncing Lynx and I don't have good access to getting Salt the Wounds, I do not run Salt the Wound. That's kind of it. The blue cards are 3 Brand with Cinderclaw, 1 Concealed Blade, 1 even bigger than that blue, 1 Knives Out, 3 Lava Vein Loyalty Blues, and 3 Stab Wounds. The weird cards here are obviously Concealed Blade, even bigger than that, Knives Out, and Stab Wound, right? So in the previous iteration of this deck, I was just running Wounding Blow, which is just a 2 attack, blue, 0 cost, 3 defense card. Stab Wound is literally just that, but ninja keyed. And if I hit anything with the daggers, it also makes them lose an additional 2 life, so it becomes kind of a must block too. It can be given go again with Soaring Strike, Razor Reflex, whatever. Can be given a little bit extra power. It can be hit by the Tiger Stripe Shuko. It's a very versatile card in this deck, and actually did win me not a Nationals game, but a calling game. Same with Knives Out. Opponents at 2, they think they're going to take the 1 from the Kodachi and choose no blocks. Knives Out. Even bigger than that, it's pretty self-explanatory. You hit with a Kodachi, it's a blue pitch for 0. But if you hit with a Kodachi, you can just turn over the top card, draw a card, and create a Quicken token for any of the attacks that do not have go again. It's just a one of. It's just to round out the deck and give me more go again options for the cards that don't have it. So that's the deck. That's the prime deck that I play and present often. The sideboards are 3 Breaking Points. Typically for the Lexi matchup, that's kind of it. It's just if I think they're going to be an Arsenal heavy deck, I just bring in a Breaking Point. It doesn't come in against any kind of deck that uses a lot of defense reactions like Arachne or the Guardian, right? It's just not for that. E-Strikes very often come in if I think I'm going to be racing. Because I run a Phoenix Flame heavy deck, I can usually just pull up a Phoenix Flame from the graveyard and just pitch it for a 7 damage card or extend the chain with go again for 5. It belongs in the deck for sure. I used to not run this card, but I have seen the error of my ways. I have 3 Erase Faces. This is for the mirror against Lexis or anything else. Sometimes it comes in. Anything that relies on it. Like the Runeblade race is really tight. It is really tight. Like I would say it's 50-50. Me and a really good partner of mine who practices with Runeblade quite a bit, it's like 50-50. So Erase Face helps tilt it a little bit more. They have to block it. It can eat up one of their turns, or they just don't get that good of a turn. Their choice. There's 2 red even bigger than that. If it's gonna be a slower, more methodical matchup, I put in the even bigger than that reds, so I can kind of dig and shape my deck, tuck cards for later without them knowing what I'm pitching, and then obviously it gives some of the bigger attacks go again, so I can kind of like play a little bit of mind game with it. But even bigger than that, if you're running Kodachis, should just be in your deck. You'll always get to draw a card, and you'll always create a Quicken token. And then the last sideboard card is Sink Below. I just have 3 of those. That's typically for the Warrior matchup, right? I know a lot of people aren't as worried about it. It's also for Guardian and Azalea. But any attack that's going to go tall that is going to deliver gross on hit, you need Sink Belows for. I hate running them. I personally do. I really want to find a way to take these out. I just feel like if I'm focusing on a defensive measure, I'm probably going to lose the game because Fi needs to be consistently putting out 12 to 15 damage a turn or he'll lose. I just felt better with it in the deck, so I did bring it. It didn't help. It didn't help in the calling, but, you know, not everything's going to help every time. So that's the deck I brought to Nationals, right? And we can get into round 1. Now, I want to note that if I remember right, there were 10 Fis across like 550 plus players. I don't exactly remember how many people were at the Nationals event in Vegas, but I remember there were only like 10 Fis. Okay, it was not a well-represented deck. And I got the mirror round 1. My Art of War was 23. His Art of War was 25 damage. I wish I could break down this game in a more exciting way. He just did 2 more damage than I was able to do. He gave up his fridge pretty early. Just threw that shit right out the window. It won him the game. I don't know what to tell you. He was also running the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. You could point to that as a differential as to how he won the game because he was able to salt the wound for 2 more damage because of that. And I'm going to say that's correct. Me drawing the extra card for the 3 turns we had the game was fantastic, and it did cause me to do more damage. It did. I did with an even bigger than that. I pulled 2 non-attacks and a reaction, and then flipped over a blue attack, so I couldn't draw. That might have also been the point. You don't want to try to rely on random chance too much to win the game, but I didn't think I was. I thought that was just a standard turn. I didn't know until later. And then at the end of 1 turn, I stuck a Phoenix Flame into my arsenal as opposed to just playing it. So those are 2 points in the game that I want to examine and understand that those probably cost me the game. Sometimes in the aggro matchup, you just have to actually push that extra damage. The reason I didn't, it required me to Snapdragon a Snatch. If you're familiar with this game, I want you to try to think about any scenario in which you want to Snapdragon a Snatch at the end of a chain to present 1 or 2 more damage from a Phoenix Flame if Tiger Stripe Shiko has not been consumed. I am of the opinion now that no, I would never do that, so I don't count that as a mistake. I think that is the rawest form of gambling because you just kill every Snatch, Rise Up, everything in your deck that doesn't have Go Again that you need later. You just killed to do 1 more damage. I can't imagine at all how many times that will win me the game, right? Just doing 1 more damage in a turn, 3 or 4 turns before the game. Is that the one? I would have to actually specifically target test for that, which would be playing games and doing that on purpose to see if I won the game and if it was the reason I won the game. It's such situation-specific testing that I don't know if it's even worth my time. But it is something I'll probably do eventually. Point being, my first game in Nationals was a loss. Second one, I got so bummed out. It was against an Icelander. This game was a lot more interesting. First turn, Channel Lake Frigid, but I had 2 blues in hand and was able to present a Kodachi and 2 zero-cost attacks, which threatened Mask and took a card out of their hand. This was the play pattern for 3 or 4 turns until I got the Findall Spring Tunic. I had a fantastic full red hand. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was like, I want to say it was like Blaze Headlong, Inflame, Snatch, and something else. I don't know. I had an Art of War in Arsenal. The opponent got a little antsy. I'm not sure why they chose to do this, but before I had even attacked proper, right, I delivered a Kodachi. Oh, yeah, it was some blue card. That was the other card. I think that was the other card. It was Snatch, Inflame, Blaze Headlong, and then a blue. Yeah, it was some random blue card. I don't know what it was. Point is, I presented 1 Kodachi, and they tried to forget what it was. I don't know. They tried to give me a frostbite and then do some damage for some reason after the first Kadachi, as opposed to waiting to see if there was a more disruptive play. Floated a resource off of the Tunic in response and Art of Ward in response. Drew nothing but gas. I think that was 2 cards out of their hand, because they blocked the second Kadachi, 1 to pitch. And I guess the other card didn't have a defense value, or they were playing very poorly. But I got a mask trigger and went off with Phoenix Flame, Phoenix Forms. I should have wrote all this down because it's not as exciting to just listen to the game winner. But I won my match against Icelander anyway. My opponent was telling me that Phi is favored into Icelander. I don't agree, but I can't wholeheartedly disagree because now I have a history of beating Icelander in large events. Road to Nationals and Nationals being them. So, question marks. Maybe Phi does have a pretty reasonable matchup in Icelander, and maybe Phi is going to make a bigger statement than I thought. I'm not going to bore you too big with the third and fourth round of Swiss details. It was because it felt like I was just on a downward trend. It was Icelander was a tough match until it wasn't. Oh, Dorinthia. That's right. My last loss in Swiss was to Dorinthia. I love that hero so much. I have so much practice into it. And I made all of the right calls. But the first turn went to the Dorinthia. And it was Iron Song Determination, Steelblade Supremacy with a blue pitch on the first turn. And I just so happened to have an Art of War and nothing but 2 blocks in my hand. And I did side in the Sink Belows. Double attack, end with a counter, end with an Arsenal. Next turn, I do present some damage and I Arsenal the Art of War. The match at this point, I think, is like 30 to 32 or something like that. Nothing too crazy. Next turn is Iron Song Determination, Steelblade Supremacy, Glistening Steelblade. Again, I have an even bigger than that and a bunch of 2 blocks in my hand. A blue Brand of Cinderclaw and some other stuff. So I try giving up some armor to stop it. Obviously, we react over it. And then he just pushes damage for free, basically. I think he's at like 5 counters at this point in time and has gone 2 turns in a row pushing through a dominated attack. Drew some cards, ended with an Arsenal. I have not played against this big of a high roll, but I want to say out loud again on this podcast, do not blame the high roll. Okay, what could I have done? I could have packed a couple more defense reactions in my deck. I could have prepared for Dorinthia. I knew she was going to show up. Not a lot, because I was considering taking her. So I was considering maybe if I get the off Dorinthia match, I need some other defense reaction, something. I just ran out of options, ran out of time to test against all of the heroes. I didn't prepare correctly for Dorinthia, and she steamrolled me. It was bad. That ended up being my 4th loss. 1 lost, 1 lost. I ended up dropping out because it was... Oh, no, that was my 3rd loss. Sorry, that was my 3rd loss. I'm kind of skipping ahead because it's painful. We go into the draft of Monarch First Edition, which I love. I've learned how to draft so much better recently, and I kind of want to go over how to draft a little bit better in an episode of the podcast later on. But just know that the blast part of the draft was understanding that we were all drafting correctly, and we all ended up with amazing decks. I think I had like 3 Smash with Big Tree Reds, Soul Harvest, a red Endless Maw, 2 red Dread Scream. Like, it was just fantastic. I felt on top of the world. And it was a very good match for the first round of draft. I dropped after this round, like you heard. As soon as I hit my 4th loss, there's no hope for day 2, so I just dropped. But my opponent, I think, was down to like 3, and I think I was down to 2. And I had a Zealous Belting in my arsenal. Yellow, unfortunately. So I Zealous Belting and Hungering Slaughter Beast for 11 total damage. They lay down their whole hand and give up the Aether Iron Weave. They have armor. And I think I have it. I'm just like, okay, so we're near the end of the game. They have like 10 cards left and 4 or 5 Soul Shackles. This is just going to be it. And off the top comes 3 Seeds and a Bounding Dagger. I can't describe a more depressed look And my opponent shook their head as well. And I was just like, I just extended the hand and congratulated them. That is what I want to impart as well, is not a single time when I lost did I blame my opponent or try to make them feel bad. As I've gone over in previous podcasts, they're here to win. So are you. And if they win and they accomplish what they're after and they're on their road, don't start shooting at their wheels, man. My most common phrases were "good job, man," or whoever. Good luck in your future games, and thanks for the game. I would then shut my fucking mouth, pack my things, and walk off calmly. And then I would go over the games in my head. Do not take your rage out on your opponent. I got so goddamn mad when someone did that to me. Later on the second day of, day one of the calling, right? We'll go over that in a bit as well. So that's how my nationals went. I scrubbed out 1 and 4, and I kind of wanted to go over how to deal with this. And that really is it. It's carry yourself with dignity. Do not shoot the wheels out of your opponent. Do not try to tear them down because they won. Yes, this is a game of skill and chance, but that chance is there, and sometimes the cards don't fall right. All of my games, every single one of my games, was down to 1 or 2 life. This was just the highest level of competition I've ever experienced. Even in my other card games, it didn't feel this tight. They were either stomps, rolls, or, I'm sure the moments happened, but I never experienced them like this. My opponents were calling out my plays. I was calling out their plays. We were laughing because we knew we were right. It's just pure competition. And sometimes I'd make a mistake, or sometimes I didn't make a play, and that's what cost me, but it wasn't technically a mistake, right? It's just what you saw at the time. So make sure to try to keep that really good mood, and don't be one of my opponents in the calling who saw my nationals wrist wrap and said the phrase, well, I don't want to misquote entirely. It's I was telling him, it's good to get a few games in after Nats with less pressure, simply because every other game except for Nats felt like it was just a fun game. And the opponent that I had just beat in the calling, I think it was round 4 for my 4th win, had retorted with, "You lost in Nats and now you're out here killing people's dreams. Awesome." Shaking, picked up his shit, did not roll up his mat, did not pack up his deck, slammed it all together against his chest and walked off. Obviously upset. I get it. We all drove, we all flew, we all took so much of our resources and time to go do this. I then had to walk around for about 5 minutes before I realized I was not the asshole. I didn't even have to ask it, right? It's just telling someone they're crushing your dreams just because you didn't win, not appropriate. You're just dragging down the experience for everyone around you. And 2 of the players to my right also just stared in like a bumming look. They understood that it was just bad times. It's nobody likes to see it. Right. But a good way to get yourself up off the ground after a big loss, like if you're invited to nationals or something and there's a weekend long event, I have done this twice in a row now where I've just participated in the calling. I didn't want to per se because I was already exhausted from the first big event I was in, but I wanted to prove to myself that I was an okay player, and I did go 4-1 before with what is that? Round 1 lost to Azalea, and then I won 4 games in a row, and then I lost 2 games in a row, so I couldn't get the day 2 cut. But I still beat all of my bad matchups after that. I beat another Dorinthia, I beat another Icelander, and then I got a couple Jermai matches, which I tried to cheer my opponents up at. I was like, hey man, you really did your best. I feel like you played to the best you could have, and the cards just fell in my direction this time. Thank you for the game, right? Try to lift the experience up for everybody while you're there. Be the positive force, right? Not a lot more to the Nationals event or big events like that. I did a few side Monarch first edition drafts. I'm a little upset that they were all with the stamped cards. I'm sure some people want those. I am just, like you may have kind of caught on, I've been in the card game scene for a very long time, and anything like that, if you're looking to sell, trade, or anything, is oftentimes just viewed as straight up a damaged card. So it's cool that I have them. I got a foil Phantasmaclasm. I got some other cool stuff, but I don't know. While you're at all these big events, make sure to do the side events. I should have not done the calling. I should have done all the fun side events. You can get all these cool tickets and get all these prizes that you're just not able to get otherwise. If I had won one of my side events, I'd have been able to get an alpha Welcome to Wraith pack. That's just cool. Just do all the very cool stuff that are available at the area. I had fun doing a sealed, opened up a foil, Codex of Frailty, had a lot of fun. Make sure to do all the side events if you go to these. They're a blast. So I kind of want to talk now that we've gone over a little bit of my experience and what you can expect out of that Phi deck. Remember, like I said, you might not want to play it. I think you might at the same time. All of my matches really were within a point. Obviously make it your own if you feel like it, but do check out that deck. That deck list played in a very tricky way, sequencing everything correctly. It's awesome. I love that Phi deck. So let's go over the Sunday event Nationals top 8. We enter the day with 2 Briars, 3 Lexies, 2 Icelanders, and a Dramai. Pheno Black being on Dramai. I do want to note death to the traitor, Daniel Rutowski, who went to Icelander instead of Phi. If you hear this, I appreciate you and respect you as a player. Play Phi. Come on, man. What the fuck? Icelander sucks. So, moving on. I'm just going to do a quick breakdown. It looks like in the matchup between Briar and Icelander, I think Charles Dunn for the U.S. Nationals top 8 is on the Fatigue Briar. I'm positive of it because I saw that deck once or twice. And it looks like he has the positive matchup into Icelander. I wish I could have watched that game a bit more, but it wasn't on the huge stage, and I didn't feel comfortable just like hovering over people's random games in the field. Pheno Black was taken out promptly by Craig Kemples with Lexi. That's surprising to see. I want to explore more what makes Lexi capable of going through a Dramai. I wonder if it was just bad draws, or I don't really know how that happened. I do know... I do know that Lexi can push a lot of damage really fast, obviously, and on a high roll, just going straight for the throat as opposed to the dragons is the power play. And that's probably what happened. Just a few huge power spike turns. Then you have a Lexi mirror match. Sometimes this goes out to fatigue, so be aware of that if you're going to be playing Lexi in the next little bit. I know she's only going to get more popular now that Briar is gone. But yeah, sometimes Lexi goes to fatigue in the mirror, so get ready for that. And then again, an Icelander versus a Briar in the bottom, in which the Icelander wins, right? So either that Briar wasn't on the fatigue list, or I don't know what happened there. But moving on from that, you have top 4. Briar beats the Lexi again. I just think... Now, this is why I don't like Lexi. Lexi doesn't convert, man. This is why I wanted to talk about the top 8 of Nationals. You see all that Lexi. You see all the Lexi in the field. I didn't play a Lexi one time, surprisingly. So I don't have a lot to report on the Phi Lexi matchup, even though I know it's just a race. It looks like the Briar deck was a bit more versatile this time. You're not going to have to worry about that anymore. Briar, as I said in the beginning, did hit Living Legends, so goodbye to the Rosetta Thorn and Briar. But it looks like the variance in Lexi stops her from hitting finals and or the win frequently enough that I just don't like it. If you are looking for a blazing fast deck and you are just looking to get at it, Lexi's a fine choice. But man, I think you're going to get your heart broken at some point with the variance that's in that deck. It's like the same time I Art of War into 2 low rolls and I just want to quit. I want to find the decks without the variance. And we'll talk more about those as I find them. But Lexi looks like she high-rolled Icelander in the top 4 and knocked her out. And the finals were Briar and Lexi. What more can I say? For the second time in a row, it looks like Lexi's variance bit her in the ass, and Charles Dunn came through with a very consistent fatigue Briar list and just annihilated Lexi. I do think Lexi's going to Living Legend soon. I think the Tales of Aria heroes they're too powerful. We all damn well know that set is broken. When I was there at the Calling Vegas, the first time they had a Calling in Vegas for the world premiere of Aria, I just knew it. That set, every card I read, I couldn't believe. So... goodbye to Briar, the Warden of Thorns. Goodbye to the Rosetta Thorn. We will so dearly miss it. I'm sure of it. This brings up interesting applications for the new Runeblades Vincet and the old Runeblade Viserai. They no longer get access to the Rosetta Thorn. I think they should have made that an elemental weapon to begin with. But now we're going to be starting to see a lot of more experimentation and a slowing down of the Rune Blade. Viserai still could be a fast Rune Blade, but he's just not as fast without Rosetta Thorn, I don't think. So we're going to see an interesting meta unfold over the next bit while we slow down simultaneously and speed up. Since Lexi is still here, she's going to be the bar for speed, I think. But the variance is going to be what kills her, I believe. If we really listen to this and watch the long-term meta unfold over the next 3 months, I do think her variance is going to be her killer. So we're going to be looking for the most competitive, most consistent deck. I do still think Fi is on the top of this list. I'm going to keep working on it. I was so close to winning every single match. I know I'm almost there for every matchup. I want to congratulate Charles Dunn if he ever hears this. Congratulations, dude. That's got to be an amazing feeling to confirm and seal a hero's fate into the living legend. That's just amazing. I was on the board for Oldham, but your name is for sure one of the biggest names contributing to Briar's. Also on Sunday, the calling Las Vegas was Yuki Lee Bender, 600 person calling. That's just insane. She is such a consistent player. Definitely go check her out if you need to learn a little bit more about Ranger. She was on Lexi. Obviously, she's the one who broke the Lexi code pretty early and started showing everybody that even before Outsiders that Lexi was very viable. I think the final was Bravo and Lexi. I know the Bravo stabilized pretty heavily and started cracking Yuki Lee Bender down quite a bit. I was in a side event at the time, but they were kind of announcing it a bit. If I remember, it was just an explosive 3 of a kind turn that just locked up the game. You just can't block out as much as you need to as a Bravo, which I kind of want to touch on. As a Bravo player into Lexi, you need to push the action. You can't just sit there and block. You need to be the one. This is a matchup where I would suggest bringing a Nothos in over the other ones because, yeah, the extra block and the Titan's Fist are consistent and nice, but I think you need to be pushing damage as fast as humanly possible after hitting massive on hits and crippling their turn. This is where your knowledge as a Bravo player and learning when to dominate and when not to dominate to peel cards out of their hand is going to be huge. A few of my friends stuck around for Sunday for the Battle Hardened, so I remember Michael Fang. I don't remember what he used to play, but I know he was on Chain for Blitz. That's crazy to see Chain taking over Blitz away from the Wizards. If I remember right, there were like 5 Chains or something like that in the top 8 of the Battle Hardened. That is insane. That the strength of that Carrion Husk just shows you that that's how Oldham got there, just having a solid fridge just available at all times. And I have to assume that anyone else who can put on the Husk will be another great hero as a Blitz main going into the future. That's kind of all I got for Nationals, right? It was more about the trip, having the fun, and going and experiencing a national event for the first time for Flesh and Blood. I want to bring more competitive content as well, and more just kind of like what I experienced. Doing this episode, I've already realized my lack of preparation and research for doing an episode for big events is going to be a glaring flaw. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any comments or constructive criticisms, please put them down and what I should be doing next. I think next time I'm actually going to bring the recorder and maybe even a notebook to start taking finer notes of each event and really extrapolating these into slightly bigger episodes, because I mean this is where it's at. Once you get to that top line of play, that's what you need to be really learning, right? Fundamentals get you pretty far in as I've figured out, but there's another barrier to break. Go ahead and check out Crash Command Games on TCG Player. I've started doing a little bit on eBay, but not a whole lot yet. All of that paid for all of this equipment. None of that paid for the trip, right? I'm not quite at that level yet, but I did get a little bit of extra support with some Patreon funds there to get me into there to produce this episode with the information in this episode as well. I think soon I'm going to be working on Riptide and Prism, because I technically quote unquote won Prism. I can now start to build her because Riptide is a misery right now. Check this out on YouTube. I'm putting out little shorts, TikToks, and things like that as well. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this at. If you are listening to this on YouTube later, please subscribe. Obviously, I just want to get as big as possible to get as much information out there for as many new players. This game is still small. Even if you're listening to this and you think this game is any kind of big yet, it looks big, but it's not big, right? We need a lot more players, and we need a lot more information out there for people to get into this game. Thanks so much for listening to Licking Your Wounds, the episode of Cast a Commotion. This one's 0.